Alright, so right here I'm going to show you how to do a two-piece removable J-channel. You can see I tried to do a really bad job installing that J. And this block is centered vertically in that piece of siding, and it doesn't reach the top or the bottom of the siding. And when that happens with like a faucet block or just a faucet or any other small penetration, usually you have to slit the siding above and below that, or come in from either end and put an overlap, so you end up with a seam above and below the penetration. You can see I matched those factory ends, and I'm showing you how you usually would have to do this, but with this new method that I haven't seen anybody else use, you can actually avoid having that seam above and below. And just cutting out that thing like normal, and I kind of goofed up here. I should have used the factory end where it's exposed. I usually never put a cut end exposed. Yeah, so there, I'm pointing that out. All right, so this works best if you have something that the J is butt up against. If it's not butt up against something, you might still be able to do this by riveting the new J to the old J in the inside trough. So what I'm doing is I'm cutting out the face of the J and a little bit of the trough. So I'm rounding that corner a little bit, and I'm always keeping my hand behind where I'm cutting because it's so easy to slip with a knife like that. You can see I just match my cut like I usually would. I've shown you guys that a few times. And cutting out the trough. And now what I'm going to do is cut out most of that nail fin. I'm leaving about a 1/4 inch. And again, you don't want to use your knife on that part because it's just so easy to slip. So I use my snips. And now I'm cutting out the deflector that I had made. And now I can slip that in from one end, and I forgot to angle the cut on that trough. That just makes it so much easier to slip in there. It doesn't keep getting hung up on things if you angle that. Now I'm slipping it behind the old trough and behind the old nail fin. And you can feel when it kind of clicks in. And it's actually locked in there pretty well now. And it's not really going to move. Especially once we get those other 45s done. Everything kind of holds itself together. So now we got that started. I'm going to show you that you can actually put a continuous piece because there's no J on the outside. There's no face on that J channel. So now I can just make a hole in the middle and avoid those seams above and below that block. Now I'm saying you don't want to try to knife through this. Instead, what I'm going to do is get a knife hole started in the middle just so I can get my snips in there. And now I can just run around that rectangle and snip that out. Now you can see we have a continuous piece without a seam, and we could keep our joint patterns on the wall like we usually would. This way is not quite as watertight, but the block that's on there should be watertight. That should be flashed out, so it shouldn't cause any problems. Those little rain deflectors really don't do a whole lot, at least in my opinion. So now I'm cutting out the trough and cutting out most of that nail fin again and making a little V in it and cutting out the rain deflector and slipping that behind the old J channel and that block, or slipping it in between them, and cutting out my 45s just like I usually would. And those come together pretty nicely this way. And I'm going to continue that process all the way around. And if you want to, you could trim nail it with a white trim nail in the inside trough. And I don't have my nail punch, so I'm actually using a bit, and it takes a little bit of finagling. I'm just holding the joint where the nail head and the bit come together, and eventually I'm able to get it started and get that in there. Now I'm saying that you could rivet in the same manner the old J to the new J in the inside nail trough. If you didn't have a block behind it, that would be the way to go. And once again, better look at it, the 1/4 inch of nail fin that's left, cutting out the rain deflector. And it takes a bit of finagling. I'm prying out on that old nail fin, the old trough, and getting that hook behind there. You can see that now it's moving freely. And I'm making sure that it's staying in the same place that it was before. And that everything's tight before I go ahead and mark the next one. Once again, cutting out the nail fin and marking out where to cut out the trough. And now what I'm going to do is slip it behind the right side face of that J channel. And then I'm going to go ahead and flip them over. And I could have cut the right side a little shorter so that I didn't have to bend it so far, but I knew that would be plenty flexible. And cutting out my 45s once again, and pretty soon you'll see that it comes together just like it usually would. And you can't even tell that it's two-pieced. The only thing is you end up with little holes in the corner that could be caulked in.